This is a special one. This is a very, 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 very special one. The reason this is a special episode is because I'm joined by a renowned journalist, someone who has almost, I want to say, redefined what being a journalist in this digital age looks like. But recently, the news he has been, subject to a much, talkability because tend to go to free data, free data, free data. But we're very happy to have him because he is free. Welcome, Komoangu. Dhara B, Blessed Mhlanga. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kandisa, Mr. Sold Out.
I honestly don't know kuti totangira papi. How are you feeling, Koma? How are you?
Normal Kandisa, like I've always been. You know, when I sat with you in this studio and had an interview with you, Dara Pepe.
Yeah.
I'm still me.
How long were you inside?
73. Okay, so one day, my police tells ku central ukoko. Boys the police uko. Then 72 days ndine boys the green. Ku Harare Remand.
And where is the case now? Because my understanding was you were out on bail. What is the status of the case? Trial? Where are we?
It was supposed to kick off on the 4th of May, but unfortunately it didn't because the state had one reason or the other of not letting it kick off. But yeah, so we are waiting anxiously to have our day in court on the 17th of June.
But if you can, are you able to walk us through your state of mind? Because I can imagine that even from the start, the disbelief of even being in that situation, it would say, like, walk us through the.
So Kandisa, there are certain things that we need to accept as Zimbabweans, right? I mean, we need to accept certain things, and the first thing is that it is the regime is predictable. It doesn't pull surprises, right? So there was never any disbelief when I got into the situation that I got into.
Okay.
I mean, I had been asked to come to the police 3 times before I was eventually arrested. So I knew something was happening. I was in Zambia when the police came for the 4th time looking for me. And I was informed whilst I was in Zambia that the police were looking for me. But this was just a few days after the presidential spokesperson, George Charamba, using his Twitter handle that we all know is Jamwanda, said that he had spoken to the police and had told them not to look for me because apparently believed that there was no crime or offense that I would have. And he said that the police had immediately heeded his call and had stopped looking for me. I was happy to hear that, but after a day, I heard that the police were now looking for me again. So I was in Zambia at that time, and I was supposed to spend at least 2 weeks in Zambia. I immediately flew back home, and on a Thursday evening, I arrived at the airport on Thursday around 8 p.m. I got out. I had actually called my lawyer to be at the airport, because I thought, these guys are looking for me. So the moment I get to the airport, maybe their scanners will go, ten, Dara is here. Yeah. So I anticipated that, but when I got to the airport, no one was looking for me, and I went home. Then on the Friday morning, I saw a police statement on Twitter, on X. Police had posted saying that they are looking for me in connection with the crime. So anyone with information must inform the police. Yet they had not even called me. They have my phone number. My phone number is on WhatsApp. Even as I was in Zambia, I was reachable on my WhatsApp. They had not even made any attempt whatsoever to talk to me. Surprising, because the other first 3 occasions they had been talking to me and they had been calling me, and I was presenting myself to the police without any hassles. So I was worried, and given that it was a Friday, when you get arrested on a Friday, they keep you in cells
Eh,
Saturday
yeah.
and Sunday because the court is closed, and then they will take you there on a Monday. So I quickly called police spokesperson, Commissioner Nyati, and I informed him that I was in no way running away from the police. I had every intention to cooperate with the police. So I promised him that I was going to hand myself over to the police on Monday at 9 a.m. So that we can go through the paces. It is at that time I knew, Kandiza,
Mm.
what I was facing and potentially what was going to happen to me. So I assembled my team. I assembled guests, and I did 4 episodes, 4 recordings.
But did you ever think it would be over 50 days, over 70 days?
The most I thought would be was that bail at the magistrate's court, and then I'll be given bail at the High Court. Because the
Right.
charges were flimsy and they didn't make sense. And it was in my considered view that any High Court judge would see through this and give me bail. So that is what informed the 4 episodes. I was like, you know what? We apply for bail at the magistrate's court. It's going to be denied. It's going to take us about 2 weeks to get everything ready for the High Court, and we'll apply at the High Court, and we'll get it. So I was budgeting around 3 weeks or so, but it ended up being close to 3 months.
At what point did you say, did your brain choose, what are we the same? Change our
So at the very point, I listened to Justice Gibson Mandaza give his ruling on bail. In the opening of his remarks as he delivered his judgment, I was like, guys, no. Yeah, because in the opening, he said,
Right.
in his view, being a senior reporter at a newspaper was a lofty position. When he said that, I was shocked. I was shocked. Zvakafanana nekunzi senior constable is a lofty position ku police. You understand? Now a senior reporter is not a reflection. It's not a reflection of your competencies. It's not a reflection of anything. You become senior by virtue of just staying at an organization for long. I've stayed with AMH for 15 years. It would be amiss to call me a junior reporter after 15 years. So
Right.
so so the moment he said that a senior reporter is a lofty position, and I said to myself, wow, where did the judge get that? I knew I was in trouble.
But did you know now, during your time inside Kuti, like there was these many hashtags, people were rallying for your release, people were doing, people were speaking out. And if you knew, did that give you any comfort, if any at all?
My wife, when she used to come to visit me, she would tell me that the family was not lacking of anything, just generally because people
Mm.
were stepping up and donating, and buying groceries for the family. And she was saying that we have got lots of food at home, and we've never had as much food, when you were
Sa-
there. So
Sakagaraimo.
like Sagaraibo from Dara. Yeah, but then so I
Yeah.
asked her, but if she had lots of food, why was she growing skinny? And she was like, I can't eat.
She was stressed.
She was stressed, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it gave me fuel, Candiza. It gave me
Right.
fuel
Right.
to go on. But it was not so much as the support outside that I got, but it was also the support that I got from the inside. Um,
Okay.
you know,
What does that mean? Uh,
so
Inside.
fellow inmates, prisoners, respected me.
Right.
Yes, fellow inmates respected me. fellow inmates were eager to share their food with me, so
What
that
was that respect? What was that respect coming from? What was the basis of that respect?
they saw me as a freedom fighter, even though I didn't see
Right.
myself as one. Right?
Mm.
They saw me as a freedom fighter. Fellow inmates, prison guards themselves, instead they called me Blessed Geza. You know, I was exempted most of the times from some of the humiliating exercises that prisoners go through
Right.
in remand prison.
There's some irony in the circumstances that found you in jail in the first place, right? Uh, that you are the guy who was reporting on the perceived crime. Beyond that, the connection between the names, the blessedness that you just brought up, there seems to be like a heavy irony of how is it Kuti? I'm the one who's inside.
So look, there was a lot, Candiza. There was a lot of coincidence that happened, right? So one reporter came to me as on my first day and asked me what I felt, and I just jokingly said to her, I think they have the wrong blessed. They I think they wanted
Right.
Blessed Geza, and they got Blessed Mhlanga instead, right?
Yeah.
But the coincidence also was this, Candiza. I was studying at that point. I was studying criminal law and criminology, by Doctor my lecturer Dr. Tabora, and one of the assignments that he had given us was to go to court and observe trials. And here I
Right.
was observing myself.
You-
And there I was also in Remand prison,
yeah.
on a more practical assignment.
Yeah.
Now for my research, I was actually put in a sea of evidence. So
Right.
every
This is
time I
3D
turned,
coursework. So correct me if I'm wrong. You were arrested before the famed March 31 protest, right?
yeah, you're right.
I want to take you back a little bit. The first time Blessed Geza was introduced to us, to the public, was through an interview that you did. And even the subsequent interviews, like most of them, most that involved Blessed Geza, where he was either addressing you or he was being asked questions by you, or they were broadcast on HSTV. Initially, what was your interest in Blessed Geza to begin with? What had you seen? What did you heard that attracted you to do that initial conversation? What had initiated that conversation? Was it an invitation? What?
Blessed Geza, I was introduced to Blessed Geza um, in before the coup
Right,
by I was by Christopher Mchangwa and Victor Matemadanda.
right,
When these guys were speaking out against Robert Gabriel Mugabe and in support of President Emerson Mnangagwa, who was under attack at that time. And even at that time that I was speaking to these guys, Victor Matemadanda, Christopher Mchangwa, Douglas Mahia, Larry Mavima, Owen Ncube Muda, Cornelius Mpereri. This was the clique that was around President Emerson Mnangagwa at that time. And this was the clique that had the information of what was happening within the camp, because they remember their camp called Lacoste and stuff like that.
yeah,
And also Matutu, Louis Matutu. So this was the camp. I used to speak to them regularly. I used to give them voice. At that particular time, I wasn't working for a TV station. I was working mostly for our sister publication, which is the Newsday, the Standard,
right.
and the Zimbabwe Independent, right? So I would talk to them, get information from them, verify it, and write my stories, right? And at that time, there was trust that grew with this
Right.
clique, basically
Mm.
because they knew that when they gave me information, I would not adulterate it or molest it. I would seek to verify, give everyone a side of their story, and they'll be heard. And remember, at this point, the state-owned and controlled media, right, did not want to touch these guys because they were trouble for them. And to some extent, privately owned media also was afraid because they didn't know the direction of where things were going.
Right.
I had little fear. I was convinced that what I'm
Why?
doing,
Why did you have little fear?
because I'm convinced, Kandiza, that the messenger is not the one who has the problem. If you have a problem, you deal with the person with the message, and everyone must be heard. I mean, I honestly believe that.
Did you at any point through those conversations you had with, because I think it's, I don't know the exact number, but it was more than four. There was one where it's you and him, where you ask him a very important question about why he 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 was doing what he was doing, and he famously says he wants to be rewarded.
We are not apologetic about it. Children chedu toda kutopinda ndoda kuti president vanipozi mota varipochi ndoda mabodyguards ini.
But you've got your own cars. You've got a hotel at your house that you built in Sanyat. Why do you want all this? You've got money.
I want to be rewarded as well, not to be used like a political condom all the time.
From that first interview, there seems to have been some sort of rebrand as to what he then became when he would speak with the other guys in the back, where the messaging seemed to have shifting from purely him wanting to be rewarded to being this person who was speaking on behalf of a myriad of Zimbabwean and taking their concerns on his shoulder. Is that a change that you also noticed in terms of the messaging? Or or was there consistency from your side in terms of the initial things that he wanted and things that he claims to want now?
So Kandiza, there are two different things.
Mm.
Addressing a press conference and an interview are totally different things. So when I
Right.
spoke to him, I did two interviews with him, right? And on those two interviews, you are subjected to my questioning and not to what you want to say. So the person who shapes the narrative of a conversation is not necessarily the person who wants to say things, because you are in the heat of the moment. I'm playing with your emotions, right? I mean, if you look at my style of interviewing, it's a bit different. At times combative,
Mm.
intrusive, and I'm nudging you because I want you unsettled. I mean, that's my style. I want to unsettle you because I want to push you to be able to say things that you didn't want to say, but because you get a bit angry or agitated, you end up saying things that are really deeply in your heart. Then there is a press conference where you come with a statement that you have written, you read it, or maybe you are saying something from your heart, right? So those two scenarios could be the reason why there might have been a shift in terms of messaging. That's the first thing. But the second thing, I think, is I would have conversations later on, is that he realized that when he did his interview, okay, so when he came to do, when he wanted to have the press conference, right, uh mind you, he said to me that after the interview the interviews that we did, he got a lot of people calling him and telling him that they identify with his challenge, with the problems that we had. So he then came
Mm.
to a point, he says, according to him, where he realized that it was not only him who was in that problem, but a lot of other people. So
A lot of other people, as in civilians or people who belong to his camp.
so he talks of civilians. He also talks of people who were in his camp, right?
Right.
Because he says he even started receiving from civil servants in government, right, information and documents on allegations of corruption in government.
Have you had a chance to catch up, or while you were still in remand prison, to see, because it seems momentum makaenda nemomentum kujeri Dhara ye ningiri
I
makatiza nemomentum Dhara.
I always think it's fatal, Kandisa,
Mm, mm,
to send your own message. I always
right.
believe it's fatal to send your own message. In the
Explain.
sense that
Explain, please.
in the sense that, Kandisa, you have a podcast, right? But you don't get to the podcast and start saying, Inini Kandisa, I'm this comedian, I'm going to be doing this show, kwakat. It's
Right.
if you want your message to be accepted, you have to leave your own podcast and come here at and so, or go to another TV station, so that there's credibility in the sense of what you are saying. It
Right.
actually gives, momentum. There's this thing of people thinking that they can break their own news, right?
Right.
But when you break your own news, it is not subjected to rigorous tests, and
Yeah.
and credibility is lost somehow in that. So the momentum went, because probably instead of looking for another media house,
Yeah.
he chose to open his own YouTube account and started sending his own message. And when you do that, yeah.
Would you attribute it though to a change in the media strategy, or can we give a lot of the credit to people to say they simply saw through what this guy was trying to sell? This guy is just selling us a bunch of hula baloo, and I think over the months, over the months since March 31st, people have been proven right in terms of there being no cohesive action or any of the things that he claims would happen. Nothing has happened.
So I don't think nothing happened. I mean, if you look at a lot of things have changed. Um, you look at the war veterans. They have been given free houses. There was 2 million
Right.
that was given to them. I think it was just about 2 days ago or so. I also heard that the war veterans are going to be given 94% discount in terms of title deeds, to acquire title deeds for farms that they acquired. He
Right.
might not really benefit, or he's not probably going to benefit from all those things, but
Right.
evidently he changed someone's life. The things that that Geza said and his fellow comrades during the 3 press conferences that he hosted and were broadcast by HSTV are not things that are new. These are things that have been said
Yes.
over and over again. Why did Blessed Geza stimulate that interest? Right? It's because
Right.
I think, in my considered view, that Zimbabweans generally think that the change that will come to Zimbabwe will just generally be backed by the military.
Right.
So they as a former soldier and as an internal person in ZANU-PF who was sitting in the ZANU-PF Central Committee, and as a critical player who played a huge role in the 2017 coup, it appeared to many that there were cracks in ZANU-PF, and the cheering of Geza was generally meant to fasten, to make sure that the cracks in ZANU-PF grow faster. Right. So they believed that from inside, he had the support to change those things that were happening.
But when Geza was speaking, he sounded like he was advocating beyond the war vets, Are we now saying instead of addressing the issues just countrywide, kuti tingosota munhu wese, there's people that are deciding, no. We know where the problem is. We'll just quieten that problem. In your considered view.
So applying my mind to the issues that are happening, and not in isolation.
Yeah.
Reading with the mood of 2017 and also pre-2017 is one thing that I said earlier on as we started. These guys are predictable. They're
Right.
predictable. This is what they've been known to do. When there's a section of the society that is not happy and it's influential and it's got power, they quickly deal with that section and
Right.
silence it. Those who are unhappy but do not have power are often threatened or ignored. You see what happened to the nurses' strike. You see what happened to the doctors' strike. They were actually even just fired en masse. All of them. You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
So if you look at this pattern, you'll find that this pattern is just generally there. There's the desire to solve everyone's problem has never been at the forefront of our leaders. You find that university lecturers at the moment they are striking. They want salaries so that they're able to teach at the university. What is government doing? Government is doling out free stands, millions of dollars to a constituency that they believe has power, if to remove them from office, and ignoring a constituency that is very instrumental, if I might say, in building the future of this country in terms of producing academics who will find solutions in industry, in commerce, and in our politics as a nation. What would you rather have? People who are educated, who are competent in what they do, or veterans with houses?
Can you, because I think you're the only person who can answer this question. Where is your namesake? Where is he? Where is he?
I've absolutely no idea.
Has he not reached out kuti onaka mwana wamai momentum yeah wadzoka manje toita sei?
Look, I've been resting.
Right.
I've been resting, and I also have just come back to work. I respect the laws of this country, regardless of what I might think, of what they might have been to me, but I respect them so much. So if for instance I have an opportunity to sit down with the Blessed Geza and have an interview with him, I would definitely take it. We would even ask the questions that you're asking me, for him to be able to really respond. Do you want a reward? What is it that you want? Are you looking for violence? What do you hope to achieve with what you are saying? You know, and ask those tough questions. So within the remit of the ethics of journalism and the provisions of the law of this country, obviously with advice from my lawyers, I would be very, very keen to interview him.
To have that, I want to. You just reminded me of something that I wanted to ask earlier. At what point during those Geza interviews, as a student of the law, at what point did you think, is this not Madhara Mimi? Is this not sounding suspiciously or any? Was there at any point where you thought,
There was no bell, there was no alarm bell that ever rang in my head, given that the fact that I also understand case law, right? I think you remember there was a time Morgan Tsvangirai was arrested for saying, Mugabe, you must go peacefully now. If you don't go peacefully, we will remove you violently. I think you remember that rally and that clip that was being played on ZBC. He was arrested for that, and there was a ruling that was there that Morgan Tsvangirai was a political player, and he had a right to make those statements in line with our constitution, right? And that was pre-2013 constitution. Now the 2013 constitution actually offers a wider freedom base for media and civil liberties, which include those that I think, in my respectful view, Geza was enjoying when he was expressing himself. Geza is a political player. He's a ZANU-PF member in the Central Committee, the ruling party.
So which ones now? Which of those provisions would clash with the one where they're looking for him on the basis of him inciting public violence or trying to subvert an elected government? Because that's what they're claiming that he is.
So the number of defenses available for him. I mean, if I was his lawyer, I would encourage him. I would encourage him to hand himself over to the police, because there are a number of defenses that are available to him. Now, the Constitution allows for the removal of a government in a number of ways. One of those ways is elections, right? Which are held every 5 years. But the other one is a vote of no confidence in a president through parliament. An elected president can be removed through a vote of no confidence by members of parliament. But it also constitutionally allows people to organize and demonstrate and remove a president from office through widespread demonstrations, to the point where the president can actually then resign from his or her office, after satisfying him or herself that he no longer holds the mandate of the people who elected him, even before the 5-year term of office ends. And I can say, for the 3 press conferences that Blessed Geza had with HSTV, I can safely say, without a fear of contradicting myself or putting myself in trouble, is that I constantly heard him refer to the Constitution. He would say that if a rogue president has failed, right, we will ask the people to deal with him in line with the Constitution. Right? So if I say, Kandiza, I want to deal with you in line with the Constitution, I mean, honestly, what it basically means is I want to follow the laws of this country, right? And if me dealing with you in line with the Constitution would be inciting violence, then it is not me who has a problem. It will be the Constitution that incites violence, without defending him, because I'm not his lawyer, right? But I heard him several times saying that he is not for violence. Several times he made that disclaimer. He said, we are not for violence. We don't want violence. We want peace. He said that several times, right?
But how would a peaceful demonstration work in light of how we know, like you just said, and repeatedly say, these people are predictable. Every demonstration that has happened in Zimbabwe, especially the unsanctioned ones, always turn out a certain way. How would what is calling for escape that same fate?
So the reaction of the state in any event should not dissuade people from exercising their right as given to them by the Constitution. So the Constitution gives people of Zimbabwe a right to peaceful demonstrations, to petition government, and so on and so forth, right? So because you fear that you are going to be beaten if you exercise your democratic right, does not mean that your intention to hold a peaceful demonstration must be put to question. So for us to conclude without evidence that calling for a peaceful demonstration is agitating for violence would be unfair, in my view.
No, it's not so much that we are concluding, but we're using history to inform us, to say, is this not a case of a man using language to create plausible deniability? in the event that this turns out a certain way, he can look back and say, but Inini, you can look at what I was saying. Yeah, I said I call for. We don't have a single incident of a peaceful demonstration that was not sanctioned. Every unsanctioned demonstration, except the one in November 2017, where for a specific result, those were seemingly, but we actually have several incidents where demonstrations have turned out to be fatal. So is this not my question is it not a case of a man using plausible deniability when he knows for a fact this would be the outcome, intended or not?
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be this would be best addressed by those who cause the violence.
You're right. You're right. You're right. But
Yeah.
you know what? I realize Kutinauka. Let me ask you
Mm.
something that I've always been curious about.
Sure.
Mike Chimombe and Moses very say.
They're hanging in there. They're hanging
Did
in
you
there.
get a chance to interact with those guys?
No, I used to stay with them. I used to stay in the same
Okay.
cell. I used to stay in the same cell with them. In fact,
Oh, okay.
yeah. In fact, I used to eat in the same plate with them,
Wow.
and you know, and
Because Panama conspiracy theory kai kuti ana Mike are not really in remand. Vari padheni vanozongouya votorwa ningirikini mapicture vanenge vakagerwa.
So what happens in prison, Kandisa, is that every profession that you can generally think of, you find it in prison, right?
Right.
So mababa ariko prison. So I used to get my haircut in Muyad in prison, right?
Okay.
I used to get my haircut there. Vana sekuru vaya, you know, the prison guards that you see, when you see them with nice haircuts, most of them it's done with the arrested prisoner. So kune vanhu vatori maprofessional baba vari mujere meame. What you don't have when you're in prison is your liberty, is your freedom to do or to go where you want to go and do the things that you want to do at any given time, right? What you don't have is the liberty to decide your itinerary. And prison, Kandiza, I want to tell you, is one of the most expensive places to live.
Explain.
So Kandiza, your family probably stays like 20 kilometers away from Harare Remand prison. So they have to come every day and bring you food, right? So they have to bring you breakfast and they have to bring you lunch or supper. So it means they have to come 3 times every single day. So per day they are doing more than 120 kilometers. That's fuel, right? And when you are in prison, you don't cook your own food. When someone brings you food, Kandiza, if you visit me to prison and you bring food here, one, because it's a community, right? So I stay probably next to 5 people or 6 people. So the food that I have to feed at least 5 or 6, right? So whereas Kumba, I'm feeding, when we cook as a family, Tingori 5, right? But now what's happening is taakufidha vanhu 10, 5 vakasara kumba plus 5 vandana nawo kunoko, ta 10.
Right.
So right, and every other thing that you need to do to prison involves money, and did you see? So prison is actually one of the most expensive. I think it's more expensive than being in hospital.
I don't think with people. I don't think anyone, aside from the people that have experienced this firsthand, would have actually seen it from that. So I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that insight from the other side. Kuti, wow, we had actually never considered it in those terms. Is there a piece of news that happened while you were away that you were like, I would have loved to be part of that breaking story, or would have loved to to have broke that news, or I've loved to have written about that.
March 31, I would have loved to cover it. I would have loved
Right.
to document people's voices, you know. I'd have,
Yeah.
I would have loved to add my flair to it in the way
Right.
that the story was told. Would have loved to cover the court processes and court proceedings. Would have been amazing for me.
Mkoma, let me not take any more of your time than I have. My last question to you: there's this trending thing that is happening on Twitter where people are, proffering their opinions. Top 5 Zimbabweans of all time. Do you have if you were to quickly think on the spot, your top 5 Zimbabweans of all time, you can come from Nehanda right up until Kandoro.
That would be a very difficult one, Kandiza. That would be a very difficult one.
Yeah.
I'll hesitate to limit my top 5 contribution in the space that I know that I think I've invested a lot in. That's the journalism fraternity.
Right.
I would put Geoffrey Nyarota as one of those top journalists in this country to ever emerge. I would put Dumisani Mhlanga. Dumisani Mhlanga is an amazing, wonderful journalist. He used to be the editor of the Zimbabwe Independent. Now he runs News Hawks. I would put Trevor Ncube there. Trevor Ncube is one of those black Zimbabweans who have built an independent media organization that has been instrumental in terms of shaping the political discourse in this country, and it's something that we should never take for granted. I would put Chris Chinaka. Chris Chinaka is one of the longest serving journalists with Reuters. He's an experienced fella. He's a guy who has trained most of us, including myself, in terms of interviewing, in terms of journalism, to understand the ethics behind it. I think Chris Chinaka is just a brilliant and outstanding fella. On the upcoming journalists, I would not hesitate to talk of Mduduzi Matutu. The guy has built ZimLive to become one of those amazing, platforms in this country, and it has grown more than many who hold static newsrooms, and it's got a reputation of breaking stories. So I would put those my top 5 in the media industry, but without undoing the contributions of other amazing people who have the Bono Chakawodzas, the Matthew Takaonas, amazing and leading journalists, the Wopo Chingonos of this world. I think Wopo Chingono is a very, very influential figure. He's a very influential figure with a massive following on social media, and also massive impact in terms of the diplomatic community and the world. His influence
There's people who are going to say top 5 here and yeah, top 7 now. I gonna one mkadzi mkoma. I gonna one.
So it's not that I don't respect the women journalists who are there, like when I Faith Zaba, But when I talk of the top 5, that is according to me. It's not about gender.
Fair.
Yeah, it's not about gender. I've always resisted Kandiza, and I think this is an issue that we need to start talking about seriously. I've always resisted the temptation of talking to people, of talking about people's success based on their gender.
Right.
It belittles other people. Right? I for one in my team, I've worked with young women who I gave jobs not because they are women, but because they were very, very competent. And to the extent that at one point, the team leader of my newsroom in my absence was Ruimbo Nyigadzino. Amazing photographer, amazing videographer rather, amazing at understanding storytelling. On the production side, my team leader was Mildred Tinofa. She's now a lecturer at the Midlands State University Journalism Department. Amazing videographer. She led that department. Amazing video editor. She led that department. When we spoke, when we gave each other assignments, we did not worry about what is between our legs. We worried about our competence and how we can deliver. And I think it's time that we begin to move from that gender perspective to say this is because it's a woman and it's because it's a man. I have a daughter.
I think that's a brilliant way of putting it. It really is.
Yeah,
It
because I
really
have a
is.
daughter, Candiza. And I've told my daughter that there's no free lunch. You have to stand out there and claim it. You can't wait. This world can't wait. It doesn't mean that if a woman leads, that woman will care about other women. It also doesn't follow that if a man leads, that men will care about men. It doesn't follow. What follows is what are the issues of society at that particular moment, and who is the best person placed? Who's the best person to deal with those issues? If the leader happens to be a woman at that particular time, and they're the most competent, let us have them. Because I think women are equally competent, but we downplay their role of their incompetence and capability by trying to assign to say because we also want women. No, let them be 100% women and they are competent. I'm happy with that. Let them be 100% men if they are competent. But they should not be in that position because they are men. I don't want to support an agenda that is separated on the basis of gender. I don't.
Right. You did this. I want you to know this last question. That was my last question, but then you said something that is leading me to this question. And then we go.
Yeah.
And then we go. When you brought your top 5, I thought that was a very impressive top 5. Especially Geoffrey Nyarota. I associate him with breaking the will of a scandal. Dumisan Mulea, because there was a time when I thought I would have a double major in law and journalism. So those are the people that I was very interested in and looking up. Trevor Ncube, obviously renowned publisher, Mail and Guardian, now is Alpha Media Production. But the thing that I wanted to ask you now was, while you were incarcerated, there became now talk of the discrepancy in conversation, because there was a time where Job Sikala was incarcerated. And Trevor Ncube and other renowned journalists were some of the leading voices in calling Nelson Chamisa to task for his lack or perceived lack of effort in bringing, and that issue came up again when you were incarcerated and people were asking, Ko Vancube, how is it now your voice is lacking volume when it's somebody who is your direct subordinate? I want to ask, I think this is maybe two-pronged. Is that a thought that crossed your mind? Wow. And if it did, does it cross your mind while you're incarcerated, or does it cross your mind after you are released? Okay, this situation, somebody brings it up after the fact.
Yeah. So I want us to be clear. I want us to be clear, Candiza. The question that ought to be answered, Candiza, is is when I was arrested, did the people who were supposed to do something not do it, right? Within their capacity and capability, right? That's the question that ought to be answered. So what
But
was I?
that was the same defense that was proffered when they were going after Nelson Chamisa, and it didn't
It
seem
is
to stick.
it indeed is a valid, it is indeed is a valid defense, right? Indeed is a valid defense. And in my view, Kandiza, Mr. Sold Out, in my view, uh, uh, we don't we 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 must allow lessons to be learned, Kandiza.
Right.
We must allow lessons to be learned. People must understand, the people of Zimbabwe must understand what is within their remit. What is it that they are capable of doing? And are they doing it? Right?
Right.
Do you think that I, at any given moment, sitting in Harare Remand prison, was expecting the people of Zimbabwe to come and break the prison so that I get out? I wasn't. I wasn't. When I was there, when I came out, some people were saying, hey, Geza caused me to be arrested. They were saying I was used. No, the people who
Right.
used me, their homes while I'm in prison. No, I mean that can't be further from the truth. I chose journalism. It's not Geza who said go and practice journalism. So it
Right.
didn't get me arrested. I was arrested because I am a journalist, and Heart and Soul TV broadcast something, right? Instead of people looking at the wrongfulness or the rightfulness of the arrest, they want to blame Blessed Geza, who is not the one who arrested me.
Do you not think now our political discourse would benefit when some of these influential figures would then come out and say, no, Pepe, Pagabaizika, we got it wrong then? Because it feels like a lot of the time when they very publicly get things wrong because of their position, rather than admitting or owning up or taking accountability for what looks like campaigns to disparage certain individuals, they would rather brush past them and act as if nothing happened. When people, I know people that have gotten blocked for asking or trying to take into account, because I think the conversation within the media fraternity is there's a lot of people that have taken journalism is part of its role is to to call for accountability, speak truth to power. But certain individuals within that media fraternity don't take accountability. Is there
So
no disconnect there?
yeah, so look, Andiza. It's only human to err, and it's also noble to accept when you have erred, right? But we lose sleep because someone has not accepted that they've erred. Once
Yes,
once a point has been made, it has been made. You know, and
100%.
there was absolutely no reason to try and abuse or use my pain at that particular time to try and teach a lesson instead of
Right.
standing with what you genuinely believe is an injustice. There
Yeah.
was no benefit to be gained from that, apart from attempting to ensure that as I got out of prison, I now have an enemy in my boss and those who arrested me. Apart from ensuring that
Right.
you create acrimony so that by the time I step out of prison, I am more isolated. And who does that serve? Who does that serve more? Does it not serve those who have
Right.
arrested me unjustly? Because now we are fighting amongst ourselves. So I believe kuti vanhu vemuzimbabwe, sometimes it's important to discard some of our differences, some of
Yeah.
our yesteryear gripe, and say to each other, this is an injustice to one person. It's an injustice to all of us, regardless of what we were saying to each other yesterday. Let's work together. Let's make Zimbabwe better again. Let's make Zimbabwe a place that all of us would love to live and our children would love to live. Because Kandiza, we have one country. We have one country.
We do.
You,
We do.
yeah, uriku UK gogo. You know, you're there,
Yeah.
but look at you. You're always coming back home. And even
Yeah.
ukanza hakuna chipatara, even ukanza hakuna panado, but you always come back home. You know,
Kumba
your
kumba.
parents, your parents are here. You've got your cap with the Zimbabwe flag there to make a statement that this is our home.
This is Jezra Masha minutes.
You see?
Yeah. So I take Zimbabwe everywhere I go. This is Masha minutes. We wear it with pride. Zimbabwe. I think the thing that usually gets lost in the midst of all this is we do all this because we love Zimbabwe and we want to see it better. We believe there is a strong future in Zimbabwe, you know, and we want. I guess Chinozo Siana is the methods of submission. You know, some of it is confrontational, some of it is defensive. But Mkoma, let me not take any more of your time. I thank you so much for coming on, for gracing us per bridge. Mawaya Mkatandara. I also want to commend you. You know, you did say nothing is off limits. I want to commend you for answering as openly as you could every question. Thank you so much. What can we expect from you? Obviously, dealing with this, you know, court case, getting that laid to rest. But what can we expect from you? Projects, graduation, pembera.
So you know, whilst I was on this interview, my wife was sending messages. Sandukutoona panapa atotsamwa akuti you're ignoring me, you know. So that's one item that I have to deal with
Sort out
after this. but
sorry.
yeah, but look, at the present moment, I'm in one of the most difficult phases of my life, Kandiza.
Right.
On the sense that I can't fully work for my family. But what I can assure you is that I fought to be where I am. People who didn't know me, who knew me rather 15 years ago, if they see me today, they'll be extremely shocked of the person that I've become. My parents passed on at a time where I couldn't fend for myself. I didn't manage to go into university. I had to find ways to climb up the ladder, self-made, as men would say. So I've fought lots of battles growing up, and I'm sure that I will be able to fight this battle and win. And after that, be able to tell my story. I am convinced that that a book is something that should come from my hands. I'm also convinced that even though I am starting late in life, I want to practice law and win some of the major cases in that field. So yeah, bearing the challenges that I'm facing right now, real decisions will be made at a time that I can safely exercise my mind without.
This is commendable, Mkoma. This is commendable. We're so proud, and we honestly can't wait to see all of it panning out. A book, a graduation tinenge tiriko, and even pamunoregererwa namai guru tinenge tiripo tichingoti ndisitakonzeresa zvedu, but ndimukoma wedu ava.
Graduation is Syrian Duna. Graduation is Syrian Duna.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you so much, Mkoma. I won't take any more of your time. Thank you so much, Maita Basa. Static.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your viewers. Really thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you, Kandiza. Mr. Sold Out. I'm waiting for another comedy show.